welcome to the Serpent Temple podcast. We're back with a weekly review. Please forgive our small break. Today we're going to be reviewing 3 albums. The first one is Growers of Mushroom by Leaf Hound, released in 1971. The second is Shehili by Myrath, released in 2019. And the third is Doorn by Amenra, released in 2021. So Floyd, what did you think of Leaf Hound?
Well, I just want to say we need to find out who manufactures those pens, because I need one of those pens. I'm super envious of...
We need a sponsorship.
Cool. I thought I really liked this album, and it was interesting reading up about it, because it seems to have a lot of lore and history surrounding it. Like, there's some really cool facts about it, like selling apparently for like thousands and thousands.
$4,329 US.
Yeah, imagine having that much expendable income to buy an album. That's crazy. But hey, I mean, this is meant to be like pretty much one of the proto Doom albums, right?
Yeah, it's like a really kind of cult legend proto-Doom album. A lot of the members, I mean, it's got Pete French, who went on to form Atomic Rooster and also starring Cactus. So it's one of those. And yeah, it's one of, apparently it's a much sought after LP by collectors. So the $4,000 one was like a mint condition copy of the 71 release, I believe.
And it's crazy because, do you know, I actually get such an American kind of vibe and flavor from this album. Yeah. Like, I would not have thought this was like a London formed band. Like, it was just, I don't know if it was the cowbell in the first track that kind of swung me towards thinking it was a US band. But no, there's a lot of cool shit going on here. And it's, as I've said once before, one of my favorite things about doing this podcast is just discovering so much music from this decade that it's just... Well, not flown under the radar, because obviously this is highly sought after. I mean, flown under my radar, at least.
Yeah.
Pretty fucking bold of me to claim that a band has flew under the radar just because I haven't heard of them. But no, there's some cool shit. And like, as you said, like, it's got Pete French, and his vocals are great. I love his vocal style. And then apparently he also had some members that went on to form Free and Foghat. They only know one Foghat song. You know that?
No.
Slow Ride. Take it easy. Great song.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, no. It's their rendition sounds better than what I just did.
I'll leave that to actually listening to it. Who knows? I'm still on the bench. On the fence. On the bench.
Still on the bench. You're being subbed in.
It's all that football stuff. Anyway, let's not go.
For the record, I don't give a fuck about football. Sorry. Couldn't give a shit.
I like playing it, but I just don't like watching sports. I prefer to do the sport.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you do like wrestling though, so I mean that is entertainment.
That's like the fine balance between sports and entertainment. And I do really like badminton as well. And I've spoke to a few people at work, and we've actually been talking about getting a game of badminton together.
No way.
So if anybody is, well, not anybody. I'm not inviting anybody in the world to come play badminton.
People of the internet.
But yeah, no, I love it just because it's just like tennis, but far easier.
I thought it was harder than tennis.
Did you?
Yeah, I like badminton. I like how it's called a shuttlecock.
Yeah.
That's a strange word, and I like it. Yeah.
It's very British sounding, isn't it?
It's so
shuttlecock.
British. Oh, get Dickie on board. Let's go play with the shuttlecock.
Oh, that reminds me. Have you seen that embarrassing as fuck clip? Sorry, we'll get back to Leaf Hound in a second, I promise.
This is more important.
Seen that embarrassing as fuck clip of Boris Johnson at the 2012 Olympics?
Which one?
It's the one where he's talking about table tennis.
No.
And obviously he goes, table tennis, so we invented it, and we called it whiff-waff. And it was just all this. He was just doing his usual mumbling, fucking tripping up over himself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's rich coming from me.
I mean, is it true? Is that?
Oh, apparently it's legit. It
was
true.
called Whiff Waff.
It was an original derivative of the game, which originated in the UK, was called Whiff Waff. Yeah. I
feel like the British are masters of absurdism.
Yeah.
But like before they knew that was what they were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have called it something majestic.
No.
Like feather whirling. I don't know. But no, whiff waff.
Yeah. But there you go.
It's a good name for a dog.
Boris anecdote for you there.
Yeah.
But back to Leaf Hound. I actually hear a lot of Jimmy Bower in here from I Hate God.
Like, really?
It's really cool to listen to this album and hear like it's got a real like proto Doom vibe to it. Like they've got quite a good, like there's obviously a lot of like Zeppelin elements to it and traditional rocky and bluesy soundscapes, but at the same time you can hear some like massive fucking riffs, and there's some huge riffs on this album.
Yeah, the riffs are so good. Speaking of riffs, I don't know if you know, but Unida covered Stray. You know Unida? It's got what's his face that's in every band. John Garcia.
John Garcia.
Yeah, he covered it. And like I didn't realize until I listened to this for the first time that they'd covered Stray. It's a really good song.
Yeah.
It's just really like one thing about this album is they say "Hey Little Woman" about 500 times.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a John Garcia thing because John Garcia does it too because of Stray. He's like, "Hey little woman," and he does it a lot in his other stuff. He's like, "Hey little girl, hey little lady, hey little woman, hey girl," all that stuff. That like words. It's like the of stoner rock is girl. Yeah. Little girl is a bit weird now, but yeah, that's the song.
It's just one of those tropes of the time, isn't it? It's like when there's a great compilation video of Metallica and all the times he mentions death, die or dying, and it just becomes absurd after like 3 minutes in. But it's but yeah, there was, let's say, put it in a diplomatic way, there was quite a different attitude towards women in those days, wasn't there? So
it was quite different. Yeah, I mean, we still haven't emerged from the murky depths of misogyny, but it was certainly something back then.
And what was another track that really kind of threw me for a loop was the title track, "Grower of Mushroom."
Oh, it's such a good track.
Yeah, it was like really like it's just kind of really odd, like kind of bouncy. There was like a lot of organ and a lot of kind of noodly guitar lines, and it did sound like a track inspired or written while high on hallucinogenics. So
it is like super psychedelic. I have one small snippet of lyrics for those who care. This is like the main part of the song. He's saying, "My life was a beetle which ran down the wall, stopping to scream at the hand in the hall. The daylight came in and shook hands with us all, for nobody could tell we were growers of mushroom." It's pretty trippy.
That's pretty gnarly, man.
It's so gnarly. Oh my God. The hand in the hall. Yeah, I love that line, that whole paragraph of words and images. It's like super melty, wall, psychedelic stuff. Yeah.
So how did you come to find out about this particular group? Because you always seem to have an interest in story or interest in segue into discovering these ancient bands.
Ancient bands. I actually don't have a very interesting one about this one. I just found them on YouTube. Yeah. I think I liked the cover because it's like a bunch of guys, and I like the colors and how like psychedelic it looks. And I'm pretty sure I just typed in 1971 for the album, and it was one of those treasures. And it's such an easy to listen to album as well. Yeah. It's like kind of the antithesis of Amenra in a way, because like you've kind of got to dedicate yourself to like really listening and getting into the music, which is a good thing in itself. And then this is like really fun and easy. This reminds me, when I first heard it, I thought it was like a San Francisco band from like 69 or something. Yeah. So it's really interesting that it's actually UK.
Yeah, it's I totally agree. If anything, I feel like me personally, I'm actually conditioned to enjoy music more akin to Amenra stuff, a bit more intense. Whereas I feel like I need to recondition myself to enjoy something like this that's kind of a bit more accessible and stuff. But I also read that this was recorded in 11 hours, which I think is, you can kind of hear it in the music, right? There's some proper like jam sections and like with the lead guitar work, which is often quite like quite free. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like it's just really, it's kind of like youthful and fun, and like a snippet of like young guys doing their thing on like, it feels like a hot summer day that they recorded it or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I like both kinds of music, but I can see what you mean about like having to recondition yourself, because when I was getting to this kind of music, I'd just stopped listening to black metal. Yeah. And I think it was just like a really hot summer, and I just wanted something different. Yeah. And that's when I discovered this kind of, really went deep into the 70s stuff. Yeah. Yeah, it's, I've always, need to drink some water because I can feel my throat climbing up. Uh-oh. The throat clams have appeared. I might just spill it over my face as well. It's a hot day, to be fair. It sounds nice. Yeah, I'm operating on probably about 5 hours sleep today, so I'm going to be at my word fucking up best. But no, it's funny going back to Pete French's vocals for a second.
Yeah.
There was one track, Stagnant Pool, which was a great track because it's got some really cool sleazy guitars in it. But his vocals really actually reminded me a bit of Rod Stewart at times.
Oh, really?
Like the more softer parts.
I've never listened to Rod Stewart.
See, I've only listened to Rod Stewart really through osmosis because my mum is quite a big fan of Rod Stewart and the Faces and stuff. So I knew some of his music for that. He's got a really soulful voice actually.
Cool.
Apparently he's a bit of a Lothario and a bit of a prick ladies man, but yeah, he's got a not bad voice.
Good for you, Rod Stewart.
Sure, I'll be glad to find out that I've endorsed his vocal skills.
I'm sure he's listening and crying tears of joy that he's been endorsed by the Serpent Temple podcast. He's welcome to come on whenever he wants if he truly is listening out there on YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite streaming services. But yeah, I think this album is definitely a go-to if you want to discover the 70s, if you want to hear like an aspect of that sunny side of the rock, whereas like Rooster is more of the depression side. This is the fun mushrooms that precede the depressive episode.
Yeah, because there's some serious like emotional fucking like gravitas to that Rooster album, like through like the lyricism and the vocals, right? You could tell that was coming from quite a dark place, whereas this is definitely exactly as you've just said, something a bit more accessible and
it's playful,
fun. Yeah.
I feel like Cactus is like the far joyful. All the songs are about like sex and farms and cactuses and dry heat. This is kind of in the middle, and then Rooster is like the deep depression of like horror and loneliness and sadness. So it's really cool that you kind of have a spectrum of Pete French artistry and vocal work across like the 70s, I'd say.
I indeed.
Indeed.
One track as well, Work My Body. It's quite a good track. Enjoyed that. There's some great organ work in here as well. That's some pretty euphoric organ work that I really enjoyed.
I really miss organ music, like in pop.
Yeah.
That like we need more of that in metal for sure.
I think that's probably why I think we all are quite fond of later Opeth stuff, right? Because I feel like they make pretty damn good use of the organ.
With Mellotron. And obviously like what's his face? Ackerfeld is like a big 70s rock guy. So I wonder if almost certainly he got it from that era.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that is probably as much leaf hounding as we can do. I will say the band's name and most of the song titles are taken from an anthology of horror stories by Herbert Van Faal.
Oh.
I've never read any Van Faal, but he sounds intriguing. I might check him out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, usually these days it's like solely Lovecraft or maybe some Poe, but I wonder if Van Faal is like any good.
Yeah.
Gotta check him
I
out.
have to check that shit out.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really delve too much into the lyrics because it just seems like your traditional, like,
it's
70s.
just ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing like particularly deep, I'd say, about it, but I think there's always a space for this kind of music for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good recommendation, a good find.
Awesome. So shall we move on to I think I've heard people say Myrath, but I've also heard Myrath because it's an Arabic word that apparently means legacy. So this is the Shehili album released in 2019.
See, I'd veer towards Myrath only because that sounds better to me.
It sounds more Arabic, right?
Yeah, Myrath just sounds like an English dude going, Myrath.
Myrath. Have you heard of Myrath? I heard it during a game of Whiff Waff. Sorry. I just love that word. It's ridiculous. What did you think of Shehili?
Okay. A few years back, I decided to diversify my taste in heavy music a bit because I was pretty much predominantly just consuming death metal and black metal to a point where I'm just like, I'm done with this shit. So I need something a bit different, a bit more lighthearted. So I started to get more into kind of like power metal. And then I wouldn't even say this band is a traditional, like solely a power metal band, but I think what I really like about this group is they've got all the best elements of power metal, whether it be the super catchy vocal lines, like simple but really groovy guitar work in the slower sections, but they managed to infuse it and couple it with their kind of, was it fair to say, Middle Eastern style orchestrations.
Yeah,
So I know the band are from Tunisia, right? My knowledge of this part of the world is not great, but
honestly, mine too. I'm pretty sure. I mean, if it's Arabic, they're using makam probably. Yeah.
But it's like a great blend, and it's something I hadn't really heard before. And we were reviewing Marrakesh the other week. We were talking about how they were able to quite seamlessly blend the more extreme facets of metal with the music, with like Middle Eastern music. Whereas this group, I feel like, are doing the same, but with power metal in a way that it doesn't compromise either elements. But just like some of the vocal lines are just super, super catchy. He reminds me a bit of Tobias from Avantasia at times. Like it's a similar kind of timbre to his voice. And just even the structure of it's poppy, but in a good way.
Yeah, totally. It's like kind of cheesy, but it's so like, it's great. I love it. Yeah.
See, cheesy's fine as long as it's catchy and it's like, and it's a well-written song. Like I've never had really an issue with that. But no, this is a great album. I love just kind of listen to this. And I think the guitar tone is great. And it actually reminded me a bit of, do you remember this really kind of, they had moderate success. There was this second wave new metal band called Soil.
I remember the logo. It's like a big S and then like a weird eye and...
So it was just like, it was like small and lowercase letters, like all jumbled up.
MySpace Days kind of logo.
Yeah, but there was a band called Soil and they had an album called Scars. And basically the guitarist, Sean Glass, I'm pronouncing it Glass because he's American and that's how he'd probably pronounce it. Was he used to be the guitarist, might have been the founding guitarist in the death metal band Broken Hope.
Okay.
But anyway, so this was like him foraying into new metal, and the guitar tone on this album, that album, are almost fucking identical.
No way.
But it was a really good guitar tone. Like it's just the Palm Mutant sounds so fucking like groovy and catchy. Like it's clear, it's not muddled. It's just got the right amount of distortion. Like I really, really like the guitar tone on this album.
That's awesome. It is really well produced and mixed. It's gorgeous. Like I love this, and Legacy, I think, is their previous one, released in 2016. They kind of wrote Legacy with Shehili in mind. So they were like already planning this when they wrote the previous album, which I think is awesome. And you can really hear like the production is really similar. You could listen to both those albums back to back and it would feel like one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I actually did. Yeah, I think you're 100% spot on with that, because I did dip into the previous album a little bit, gave that a listen to, and you could totally. This is definitely a continuation of that sound, and I reckon even especially more so I'd say in the first few tracks, and I feel like it kind of like throws a few spanners in the works a bit later on. Like there's the track which I've made that's called something Dice, Wicked Dice.
Wicked Dice.
I think has some quite cool proggy elements to it.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed.
They do have some proggy moments for sure.
Yeah.
Like I really like that about them. They're like not trying to conform to like a particular genre. They're just doing their thing.
Yeah, and it's but yeah, just so many just really easy to listen to moments on this album. I really like the track "Monster in My Closet." The second, like the actual first proper track on the album, "Born to Survive," has got some great riffs as well. And I think you've got, I'm going to attempt to try not to butcher the names here. You've got Elias.
I think it's Elias. Elias Buchucha. That's how I'd say it, Elias.
So he seems like he was responsible for a lot of the keyboards and the orchestrations. And I think that is quite a key element as to what makes this a good album, is how well blended the orchestral elements are with the traditional guitar work and the bass and the drums and the vocals.
That's something I'm really fussy about, as you guys know very well. But something I love about like Arabic and a lot of Middle Eastern pop music is I love the cheesy synth in that.
Yeah.
They actually use synth really well. And I think they're not doing that like 80s thing where it's like really empty music and you've got this like, this like screechy, horrible synth just crawling through the mud of blech. But yeah, anyway, this is great. It's like really poppy. It reminds me of like crazy parties where people are like doing the shrill kind of ululation thing I used to go to when I was a kid. It's like so fun. And also Elias, he is listed as a conductor on Sepultura's 2017 album Machine Messiah.
No way. There you go. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Regrettably, I've never really given much thought to it. I've never listened to any Sepultura material post Max Cavalera.
I'm just not a Sepultura fan, but I do respect their body of work. So, I mean, that's really cool that he's worked with them in that way.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, you could tell by listening to this that he's obviously got some great, like, he's got a great ear for composing and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think to add to your point about the synths not being kind of cheesy, I think it's because they sound quite authentic here, right? Like it's got like quite a traditional sound to it.
I mean, they do use some real instruments. They do use violin, rhubarb, which is like a stringed bowed instrument. It sounds so beautiful and mournful. And also the bendir and the darbuka and clarinet too.
Oh, nice. I did see that they had about 8 session violinists listed, so it's cool. I love when so much effort went into an album, you know. Yeah,
me too. This kind of blew my mind. So, Myrath, pre-Myrath. Hang on, let me find the little paragraph that I wrote about this, so I don't fuck it up. It was formed as a blues rock act called Ecstasy, spelled X-.
Oh, like ecstasy. Okay.
Yeah, X-TAZY by 13-year-old guitarist Malek Ben Arbia in 2001.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Forming that band in like when you're 13 years old, of course it's called Ecstasy. You're 13, so you're like, drugs, but like I'll forgive him that. Yeah. But that's just badass to me.
Yeah, you could definitely forgive a 13-year-old for coming up with a suspect band name.
Mine would be way worse if I was 13.
Yeah, look at Decapitated. They were about 12, 13 during their first album.
Crazy.
Which is mental because that's like a seriously good technical death metal album.
Yeah,
so that's how is that scary. Fucking possible? Literally, the drummer Vitek was like, I think he was literally about 13.
And then, like, Alan from Primordial, he was, like, 14 when he joined Primordial, right, in 91. That's just...
Yeah. See, that would make sense, because I remember when we checked his age, and I was just like, because I was like, because he didn't look old, but I'm surprised at how young he was. But, yeah, it makes sense that he joined at a young age.
Yeah, it's true. He's got good skin, either way. It's, like, very smooth.
It's that Irish sea, isn't it?
Is that what it is?
Yeah, we're deprived of any fresh air.
It's true.
in this city.
It's just... Yeah, the size of misery that bathe our breezes here.
But another thing I thought was quite cool, so there's a track which I actually didn't realise until not long before we started filming, where it was actually a cover. So it's Lily Tweel, which is a cover of a Moroccan rock band from the 60s and 70s called Les Frères Maigris.
Wow.
Probably didn't pronounce that right, but I gave it my best shot. But yeah, because I remember when I listened to the album, because of the delays, we've had a bit of time to listen to these albums.
Yeah,
we've had busy home lives the last few weeks.
You could say that.
But yeah, I remember when that track would come on, I was like, this has such a different flavor to it, and it's because it's a cover from this Moroccan band, and it's quite cool. It's got some really cool soaring guitar leads on it, and it's just the instrumentation of this album is just fantastic. I think it's not too much. Like, this is the problem with, I think... Sorry, I'm going a bit of a rant here.
Go for it.
But this is the thing with a lot of power metal, and I think you could apply the same logic to technical death metal as well, where it's too much fucking, like, guitar wankery and fucking about to the point where you it just alienates you from it. And it's power metal and good sort of death metal, tech death. The best bands are the ones that know when to restrain themselves and focus more on songwriting and less on showing on how many notes you could play. Like, that shit, that has a time and a place, and it's great to hear occasionally, but not all the fucking time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I mean, I think that is something that the more, like, virtuosic elements of genres in metal, like, you know, power metal and prog and stuff, that is something that... I mean, I saw Dream Theater live once, and the drummer did, like, a 10-minute solo. Yeah. I left. So, you know, like... I liked it up until that point, but then I was like, you know, this is just ego shit now. Like, this isn't like art anymore.
Do you remember if it was Mike Portnoy or the other guy?
I think it was Portnoy. Do you
remember what Portnoy done did you hear about his beef with the NHS?
The NHS?
Yeah, he was, I think he caught some bug in the UK once.
Yeah.
And then went to the hospital and was complaining that he had to wait for a few hours to be seen. And it was just like, you come from the place where you're bankrupted. when you have to seek medical help. So, so he caught a lot of heat from UK fans.
Nice.
because of him kind of shit canning the NHS.
Shit canning it.
Which is funny because, like, a lot of us do end up shit canning it at some points. But
we're allowed to, we're English.
Exactly. It's always different when someone else is, when someone not a UK national is shit cannon.
Especially given the fact that there's, like, a new GoFundMe every single week from people I know who live in America who are like, oh, you know, my tooth is rotting out and I will die if I don't get some treatment. Yeah, it's, like, insane.
It's mental, absolutely crazy.
That's not a criticism of any American people. It's just the ridiculous health system over there. Yeah, it's like that should not be the norm for any human on this planet.
Nope.
But speaking of which, the planet, that is. So Myrath were the first Tunisian musical act to be signed outside the country.
No, that's pretty cool. I mean, they're the only Tunisian act I think I know. So
it's really cool. I think they were signed to a French label, and yeah, it's just so impressive. I think it kind of shows. I think that might be just like a thought here. Perhaps one of the reasons they're not like, oh, look at this Whitley guitar shit is like, so Tunisia had an Islamic revolution similar to Iran, but more recently. And then after that, like the country kind of changed, and that's why they now live in France, the band. And I think there's a lot of that kind of longing in their music that I think me and a lot of other Middle Eastern people can relate to, and just Eastern people in general. And I'm gonna read like an excerpt from an interview they did. So they say, before the revolution, we had a metal scene in our country, which unfortunately is no longer the case. Now we have a radical Islamist party in our government that demonizes our music and portrays it as satanic. In fact, increasing independence and freedom of speech was the only good thing the revolution brought with it, because it also ensured the rise of the radical Islamist party, although a large part of the people in the country is actually against it. So that's really interesting in my view, and I think perhaps when you're making music and you're the first band in your country to be signed outside, and there's no metal scene anymore, and you're doing what you're doing, I think you're doing something bigger than yourself at that point, even bigger than like just being in a band in general. Yeah, totally. I think with the added political weight behind, just the effort to form a band, and like it definitely just adds just an extra dimension of importance to what they're doing. Yeah, it's a real shame, because I would have loved to have seen a present metal scene in Tunisia like there was before the revolution. Like that sounds amazing. And they have a song on the album which is my favorite song, called Dance. I don't know if you read into. No, I didn't actually. No. Oh, it's amazing. So the story of Dance is about a Syrian dancer called Ahmad Judair, who received death threats from ISIS for his dancing, and he still continued to dance. So they dedicated the track to, I quote them, "those who refuse to fall or to stop hoping, even in a world full of hatred and uncertainty." And the dancer Judair, he actually tattooed on his neck, "Dance or Die," because that was what this album was going to be called. And I'm pretty sure he's in the video, the music video of it. Yeah, God, that's pretty wild. So amazing. Yeah. See, because because when it comes to the lyrics on this album, I just looked at the track, and I probably made I've made the misjudgment of presuming that the lyrics are quite simplistic, because they've got very simple titles, and I was reading the lyrics and stuff, and I thought it was quite face value stuff. But that's so cool. I had no idea about that, and that's such a cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's really. I think most people would just be like, "Oh, this is cool," but like, "Oh, it's at the door." Don't worry, Manu will get it. It'll be for Manu. Sorry for those listening to the podcast. We probably had a delivery or something. But yeah, the lyrics to Dance, I feel like kind of related to the lyrics also to Shehili. Shehili is like the name of a southerly wind that's like warm, that blows across the deserts in Tunisia. So the lyrics to Dance are, well, part of them anyway. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's like, it says, "The sky is raining fire, we dance between the bombs, the curtain falls tonight over the ruins and the tombs. We dance to celebrate our history and fate, we're shining to exist, injustice and hatred can't make us fall in the night." So it's like a direct kind of fuck you to like extreme radical Islamist things, where they're like, you can't dance, you can't do anything vaguely feminine if you're male. And then Shehili, which was like, this was like a super emotional part of the album, because it's like super relatable as an Iranian. He's talking about the wind, and he says, "It's like a gale to me, I don't want to lie. To me, walking alone to the sea, it's my homeland that I need, longing for homeland." So it's like, God damn it, Myrath. Yeah. They really touched a diasporic nerve there for sure, in a good way. Yeah, that's it just reminds me of, this is going to ruin the. But I just think of the elves and Lord of the Rings. being Going to
cold.
The west.
Yeah. But no, it's but yeah, it's, I mean, fuck. I mean, when you look at the amount of people that have been displaced in the Middle East, right? I mean, it's fucking just. I mean, fuck. It's you're gonna need 100 episodes to even begin to cover the amount of
it's mad
horrors and shit that's went on in that continent. I mean, fuck.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I just love that they're bringing attention to it in such a beautiful way. Zaher Zorati's vocals are so beautiful. He's got like, I really love that Arab style of singing. It's like super different to like Iranian or Turkish or Syrian or whatever style of singing. It's like it's not like nasal, but it's like the timbre is like very warm and wide. And it's like, so, I mean, it is like the warm wind, the Shehili to me. And like, I've never heard it applied to metal. Like, I've heard some Middle Eastern style vocals, but like Dead Can Dance and like Malakesh are like growling most of the time. But this is like so different. It's like that Arab pop kind of style that I just love it. It's so great to be hearing it in heavy music. Yeah.
Do you know what? It really took me kind of off guard as well, because he does such a good job of like applying it to like the metal music as well, like in a way that you wouldn't have, because like he's so good at transitioning between segments which just sounds more like, you know, regional to where he's from, and then just something more akin to what you would hear on a metal album. And I think Orphan Land kind of do it as well. And I know you're not the biggest Orphan Land fan, but like there's times in this album where it kind of reminded me, there was like certain melodic vocal lines and guitar lines that reminded me of what Orphan Land kind of try to do at times. I think for a lot of people, Orphan Land falls a bit flat, I think.
I think I mean, Orphan Land have like the best intentions, but firstly, their music doesn't really, I feel like their music's a little bit too bland. And then also the whole like both sides thing that they're doing is like not to my taste. But I know what you mean. And I actually saw them on the same lineup as Orphan Land. They played a Hellfest, surprisingly, Hellfest coming up again. They played on the same, I don't know if it was the same day, but they were on the same billing as Orphan Land. And that's kind of how I actually discovered them, was that they were on the lineup and they had like a cool logo. So I was like, I've got to check these guys out. They look kind of Middle Eastern. And I was like, damn, this is the one. Yeah.
Yeah, great bands. This is the first time I'd ever heard them. So it was a welcome surprise.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to look into. They have a few albums, but Legacy and Shehili, I'd say, are the best ones. Yeah, I'm hoping that they're going to be I feel like they might be recording something soon. One of them just had a baby though, so I'm not sure.
So, but they're definitely still active, right? I mean, they're listed as still active.
Yeah, I believe they better be still active. I will send them angry messages if they dare go on hiatus. Yeah. Yeah. Also, the singer Zaher Zorgati, he is actually on the 2021 Epica release Omega, and he does vocals on track 8.
Oh, no way!
There you go.
Yeah. Epica also recorded a few covers of songs from the Attack on Titan anime.
No way! That's so random.
It's the only anime I've ever really watched.
I've never watched that one. Yeah,
it's quite good. It's quite fucked up. But Amy basically convinced me to start watching it, and I was just like, okay. I was like, oh, this is really fucked up. This is up my street. Sort of like giant, thin-eating people. And not like I'm into vor or anything, but
it's funny that you should say that.
But it's but yeah, no. So in the Epica recorded a few covers of like some of the. I think it was the intros to some of the seasons and stuff, so it's pretty cool. I actually like Epica. I think I'm not too big into the symphonic area of metal, but Epica, they kind of do it for me. I quite like what they do. I've never been a big like Nightwish. Have never really done it for me. I don't mind Within Temptation, funnily enough. I actually quite like a few of their tracks, but anyway, that's enough about that.
I'm ashamed to say I don't like any of those bands. I think there was like one Phantom of the Opera song that Nightwish did, and that's just because I like Phantom of the Opera. Yeah. But I think it was when Tarja Tiranen.
So the original one.
Yeah, she was the singer, and her voice was a little bit too...
operatic?
Yeah, she was too operatic for me. I like the new one. What's her name?
The new one's Floor Jansen. So.
Oh, okay.
Well, there was 3.
Oh, no, it was the one before Tarja then. What was her name?
So Tarja was I'm pretty sure Tarja was the first one.
Oh, so it was Tarja. But there was like another one with
There was a second one.
She had a really pretty name. I didn't even realise that she's been replaced.
So the second vocalist was there for maybe 1 or 2 albums, and then the one they've had for a while is Floor Jansen, who used to be in the band Revamp. Well, I think it's still in the band Revamp, but she used to do like ground vocals in that band as well, so it's quite cool.
That's awesome that she can do both.
Yeah, so she's like kind of combined. She's got equal footing in the operatic style as well as the more kind of
nice
traditional kind of metal singing. And but yeah, it's that's I think a lot of Nightwish fans are now settled on Floor being like the perfect vocalist for the band.
Oh, that's awesome. I think I have respect for all those bands. I just have like, I'm very picky about like operatic style vocals. I like very pure, clear, like not too much vibrato, not too much like, it's really hard to get that area of the voice nice. Basically, you have to train for so long for that not to sound like bad. Basically.
I know exactly what you mean. And that reminds me, after this, I've got to show you a song by, you know, the band Therion?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a song that is got like, it's so operatic and ridiculous. And like, I first heard the song watching, this was like the early days of the internet where I used to download wrestling matches off of LimeWire. And I really wanted to download the casket match between Yokozuna and The Undertaker. And but I ended up downloading just a tribute to the match. It was just like a short clip of just the highlights. And it had the Therion song on it, and I'd never heard the band at that point. I was like, what the fuck is this? But it's got the most ridiculously cheesy operatic vocals on it. I have to show it to you afterwards. It's hilarious.
I love stuff like that. I love it. That's great. I mean, I criticize operatic vocal ability, and I'm pretty sure I have absolutely none. So come at me, and I will accept all criticism. But we go on to the next album.
I think we should.
So, Doorn, forgive me if I pronounced that badly. I've never pronounced anything in Flemish in my whole life. But this is the 2021 release by Amenra. It's their first non-mass release. They did 6 mass albums, which were part of a whole body of work that were connected. And now we have the new Amenra.
God damn it, you stole my fact.
I'm so sorry. You can have it back. Why don't you just edit it out?
No, we'll re-edit it. It says this is their first. No. But no, this is great, and I think this is their first album with Relapse Records, I believe. Their first major label album. Yeah, and I think you can hear a massive upgrade in production. It's so stunning. Oh, this album sounds fucking huge. Yeah. Huge, I would even say. Huge. But yeah, and it's like it's because we were saying off the air that Amenra are a band kind of similar to The Body for me, where they're quite prolific and there's a lot of output in terms of like EP splits as well as full length. So I find it a bit hard to keep up with everything a band's done, and it's a bit overwhelming for me at times. But I really enjoyed Mass 6, which is the one that had the swan sort of on the cover, which was a great album. And I feel like this is still like a continuation of that style, but I'd say on an even more kind of grand and kind of melancholic level, which is interesting because apparently, sorry to interrupt, but apparently Mass 6 was recorded while some of the band members' parents had died. Or something. I remember reading somewhere. That's brutal. So I think that was a particularly difficult record for them. So this is probably the first one they've done while processing all of that. Yeah. And I think that maybe comes across in the music. It comes across for sure. I was reading the lyrics earlier and I wanted to weep because it really reminded me of the grief of losing a parent or something like that, for sure. I think part of the prolific nature of Amenra is that they formed the Church of Ra. Yeah. In 2000 and at some point. That was really smooth. I liked it. Thanks, guys. Well, it was 2005, around 2005, the release of Mass Free. So some of the bands that are part of the Church of Ra are Weegadood. I've always said Weegadood, but Weegadood. I'm so sorry, European friends. I have completely shat all over precious language. That band, Oathbreaker, Hessian, the Black Heart Rebellion, Dane, Sora Kingdom, and other artists / bands are part of the collective, which is really cool. And there's also 166. I said that so badly. I didn't even notice. The word just fell out of my mouth. 166-page book, limited to 300 copies, called The Church of Ra.
released in 2008. So I wonder if that's going to have like Leaf Hound LP price status one day.
Potentially. So it's like a Belgian collective, isn't it? So I think that's the common denominator, that they're all Belgian. I know Weechdude, or however you pronounce it, they are a great band. I saw them Damnation once, and they kind of play like quite atmospheric black metal. And Oathbreaker are great as well. I like, really cool. And I know I think all three bands share a few members.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they've all made their own individual stamps on the music scene, I reckon. And I think Caro, the vocalist from Oathbreaker, does, well, she's listed as being a session vocalist on this album. So I think she is performing all the female vocals you hear on the album.
That's really cool. I was wondering who that was. I didn't have as much time to research this one, but yeah, I love those vocals. They're gorgeous.
It's great, and there's some tracks that's consult me notes where I've got to try and pronounce the name of the songs. The Evenmens, which means the fellow man, has got some great kind of like dual screaming, so you can hear like the harsh vocals, because she also performs harsh and clean vocals and does a great job in both, and you can hear them. They're both screaming kind of like in tandem.
Wow.
And it's just such a great effect, because they both got really shrill, emotional, like piercing shrieks.
It is like screams of grief.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a super griefy album. It reminds me atmospherically a little bit of Bell Witch's Mirror Reaper. Doesn't sound the same, but the emotional kind of effect of like, you can feel someone's died when you listen to this.
I get that. I did not make that connection myself, but yeah, I could totally see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I just think the way they convey the soundscapes in this album are fantastic. Even the first track, it's quite a while before like sort of the guitars and most of the instrumentation kicks in, and there's like some deep horn sounds and some quite cinematic sounding kind of soundscapes, and it's just really great. And to me, it just reminds me of just like Urban Decay, as well as just kind of similar to the White Ward album we reviewed a few months ago. Like, it just really reminds me of being kind of grief struck in a desolate sea.
To me, it actually feels more like the Cover of Warning's album. With the guy with the wheat on his back.
Yeah.
To me, it reminds me, because the album title, it means fawn or sting.
Yeah.
And I feel a lot of it is quite like desolate nature to me. But I can see why you'd also think of Urban Decay as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's such an atmospheric album, and I like that we both can take different things away from it in that way.
Yeah. It's the one track that there was a track in this album that really, really blew me away. And it was interesting because it's like it was almost like the track had two acts. So it was Het Gloren, which is the flash. So that it starts with like a really kind of monotone, like repeating, kind of like slightly even groovy guitar riff that kind of like permeates for the most part. And then that ends, and then it's almost like the next act starts, which starts with like this beautiful like acoustic and kind of like melancholic guitar work, and then it just absolutely explodes at one point, and it's just completely overwhelming once it crashes back in. And I think, in a lot of ways, this band reminds me of Cult of Luna in the way that they take their time in building up atmosphere, and it's about building up to that big moment.
Yeah.
And then so that when it hits, it's that much more effective.
The beginning of the album, I feel like, is a really good like example of that. When I first listened to it, I thought it was like there was something wrong, so I had to turn up, and then like you can hear it kind of start to march in, and the same thing happened in the car. Because we were listening to it in the car, and Shem hadn't listened to it before, and he was like, he kept turning up the knob, being like, is there something wrong with the radio or whatever? And then like you just start hearing this march, almost kind of style of layered sounds. It reminds me of like a church organ in a way. It actually reminds me of Mozart's Mass. I don't know if you ever heard.
No, I haven't. No.
It was like one of the last pieces of music he wrote, and like there's a bit of like speculation as to whether he knew he was going to die.
Yeah.
He was commissioned to write it, so it's like a classical conspiracy theory kind of deal. It's been a while since I read about it, but it's a fucking beautiful piece of music, and I think you'd recognize it if you heard it, because it's in like loads of films. usually when someone's dying or some big epic things happening. But it reminds me of that like march of silence before the explosion of grief and sorrow.
Yeah. Do you know who are another band that do a fantastic job of that is Mournin' Beloved from Ireland?
I've not listened to them.
They're so fucking good. They're like an even more morose and depressing version of Primordial.
I don't think I could deal with that.
No, but they're great. It's like if you ever feel up for it, I'll recommend you an album that's really. I picked up the album just once, and I think they had a song that was on the Terrorizer CD, and I enjoyed it. So I was just like, I'll go and buy the album in HMV or whichever CD store store it was at the time.
The shore is closing. Sorry, it's like a very specific.
God. Oh, that was amazing. I forgot about that.
Anyway,
but and I tell you another thing about this album that it's really fucking. I don't really talk about this too much with other groups because I'm not musically gifted and I don't play instruments. But the bass on this album is fucking crystal clear. Like on the track I was talking about, Het Gloren, like the second act of that track, like the bass. It's honest to God, I actually thought it was like, I thought it might have even been like a piano key at one point because it was just that kind of like, it resonated so much and it was just that easy to kind of pick out. And it's not something I really, I mean, you know, metal is kind of known for bass being on the back burner a lot of the time. So, I mean, just ask poor Jason Newsted from Metallica.
I feel like a lot of the music, personally, I like has good bass. Even if you can't necessarily hear it, you can feel it. A lot of the time, like Sleep, Electric Wizard, bands like that, they have, the bass isn't necessarily doing something crazy, virtuosic, but you can really sense it, like, in the music. It's this, like, threatening presence that's there. Yeah. I really like that. And this album, I feel like if you played this really loud on, like, a huge sound system, it would sound incredible, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine live. They're amazing. Apparently, they are amazing live. I didn't go Damnation the years they played. I think they played 2012 and 2015. I think 2016 was my first year. But I'd love. I mean, I know that Gav from Damnation is a massive fan of this band, so no doubt they'll play there again one day.
I hope so. It'll be cool to see them live. I mean, I never thought I'd really get into them. I only really heard them. I mean, I'd listened to them. I dipped in and out, kind of similar to you, a few times. I'd like listen to them one song on Spotify, but this is definitely an album band. Yeah. You go in for a whole album, and then like halfway through, you're like, "Damn, this is great." I was sitting. I'm gonna sound like a wanker, but like I was at a photo shoot last week, and and the photographer was playing the new album. I think it was maybe it was Mass 6. I'm not sure. He was playing Amenra. And he's actually done pictures for them. Yeah. And like he posted this incredible picture of the singer. He's called Simon Callas. Go and check out his photography. He's an incredible live and portrait photographer. Yeah. And his photographs are super intimate, really amazing use of chiaroscuro, like darkness and light. So he took an incredible picture of Amenra. He's a big fan. And he was just talking about them and talking about how nice they are as people and playing the music well, and it was like a really comforting thing to listen to during a photo shoot. Yeah. Why that was the case, but it was beautiful, and I was like, I have to check this band out. So I played the album like the next day, and I was like, damn, I've been sleeping on this band for too long. Yeah. God. And I'm looking forward to seeing the results of the photo shoot as well. That'd be cool. Yeah, I can show you some pictures after this. But yeah, it was a very cool photo shoot. That's super cool. Yeah, no, it's see, that's the problem with the scene. Is just like so easy to miss a band that you wish you would have known about sooner. It's even worse when you find out the band's split up or was defunct. I mean, that's annoying. But thankfully, Amenra is still together. But they're just a name I've always heard kind of bandied about, and I think the problem, and I think this is a bit of an issue in the scene when consuming music anyway, is when you're not too well versed in the scene, it's so easy to get bands mixed up and confused to the point where it's impossible to keep track on all the new releases. It's fucking impossible. And I think a lot of the time, you know, people's opinions on bands, they're kind of like these weird, like, people like inherit like platitudes and opinions of bands just based on what others have said. So people have never checked out a band. They've just taken what the general consensus is on that band and taken on that opinion for themselves. I know exactly what you mean. And I just feel like that happens so much in the scene. There's so many people that have never really listened to or given an artist time just because they probably feel like they don't have the time to check them out. So just go and buy. You know who I did that with? Emure. Or Emure.
Emure. What, Frankie Palmieri's band?
Yeah, because everyone on my Twitter used to take the piss out of Emure all the time, and it was like really funny, but I was like, oh, they must suck. And then they came on in the car, and I was like, who the fuck is this? This is great. This guitar tone's amazing. Like, the songs are really fun. Like, it's totally like what I want WWE. I'm sure they already do, but like, it's like a WWE style. I want to like watch someone smack down, whatever the term lingo is, to this badass music.
Well, funny enough, Kurt Angle, famed WWE wrestler, was on the album cover of one of Emure's albums,
Well, there you go. The spirit of wrestling resides in the music of Emure.
And Kurt Angle's an absolute beast. He won the Olympic gold medal with a broken neck.
Oh, my fucking God.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah,
I'd go home.
An absolute machine. I mean, he's paying for it now. Like, he's kind of got the whole T-Rex thing at the moment, where his neck's a bit fused and his arms are quite short. And
neck
small.
Injuries so common in wrestling.
Oh, God. But, no, I fucking love Emure. I think they're great. Like, band Emure, I like Acacia Strain as well. They actually famously had some beef, Emure and Acacia Strain. But, I just love that. I just love that fucking really filthy, groovy.
It is groovy and filthy. I like that. It's great. It's so dirty.
But I say Amenra is quite groovy and filthy as well, but in a completely
sad
different
way, as opposed to a violent way.
Yeah. But and I just want to say again, I think the vocals on this album are just absolutely out of this world.
They're beautiful.
I give massive credit to vocalists, and I'm just presuming this here, that are absolutely fucking shredding their voice for the sake of the art, because that does not sound easy or painless to do.
I love that none of the vocals are in English as well. I really like that. I'm right. You frowned for a minute. I was like, uh-oh.
No. That was just me thinking in my head, I'm pretty sure I checked and found out the same thing. No, I think it's all in there.
It's all translated. And I went on the Metal Archives to read the lyrics, and it looks like they're all in Flemish. Yeah. And I love reading lyrics, as I'm sure people have realized now. The end of the last song was like... It was like the first time I listened to Warning and I cried. And like the end of the last song is like, I shall read it very quickly.
Go for it.
For those who wish to know. It's literally, I mean, in interviews, Amenra have said they want to like embody like despair and loneliness. And I think this is the most crystallized embodiment I've ever read. So the lyrics are... I avert my face, forever on my own. In your embrace I am alone, forever on my own. For our sins we must atone. Have faith in happiness beyond. Have faith there is happiness beyond. I live for you. Remember my whispered words. I may come and go, but I alone will remain. For better, for worse, eternal, coming and going. Lingering love, coming and going. It's like sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good lyricism there. I see you went to the effort of translating the lyrics.
I didn't translate them myself. I just read the translation. I can't read Flemish.
But it's I really love the last track on the album. I've got some really beautiful, clean singing on there as well, like near the middle bit. And once again, this track took about 9 minutes before I think even like the distorted guitars and heavy guitars even came into it. So it was. Do you know what I mean? Just going back to that thing, it was, I like bands that are not afraid to spend as much time as they feel they need to build up a track and convey the message and the sound they want to convey.
I feel like I'm just judging. I mean, I've had very limited contact. That sounds like they're all diseased, but I've had very limited interactions with Amenra fans. But I feel like people who like this band really like this band, and that they have a very dedicated fan base.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool that the band they do what they're doing and they take their time to do it, and they're not pandering. I feel like fans can kind of tell. I think sometimes it's so off-putting when a band's just doing something to please an audience in like sometimes what feels like a very artificial way, and I think people can tell. I guess it's like an authenticity thing, perhaps. Yeah.
No, totally. And it's like, I feel like it could be a bit of a fine line for a lot of bands, because you've got... Let's take a band like Opeth, for example, who've changed or let's say even Carcass, Opeth, bands who have had multiple stages in their career where they've completely kind of changed direction a bit. And then you look at a band like, let's say, Motorhead or Vader, the death metal band from Poland, they'll just release the same album year on year. And I think it's just, I think the key is, as long as it's what you as a band want to organically do, then it works. I think there's no like everyone loves Motorhead. I'll admit I've never been
I'm
that
not a
big.
Motorhead fan.
I've never been that big into them. No. I feel like I was maybe It was the jam. My dad liked Motorhead, and well, he was more of a bigger fan of Hawkwind.
I like Hawkwind more than Motorhead.
Yeah.
The live Motorhead are better than Hawkwind.
Yeah. They're meant to be super loud live. I've never seen Motorhead live.
I saw them once, I think 1 or 2 years before Lemmy died, and they were really good. They played Bloodstock, actually, so it wasn't 1 or 2 years before Lemmy died. Yeah. It felt like that, but they were good. They played on the same night as Coroner, and Coroner were much better.
I mean, Coroner was just sick, though. I love Coroner.
So good live.
Fuck. But yeah, so I'm not part of the... even though it's funny because Motorhead are one of those bands that's super, super influential to like bands like Quorthon from Bathory, for example, and Kronos from Venom. I mean...
I'm sorry, but every time I hear Quorthon's name, I think of Quorn, the meat replacement.
Same. I've just got a Linda McCartney packaging in my
I literally get
head.
the branding, the colours, everything. I start craving veggie burgers.
I'm actually exactly the same. It's funny you mention it.
That's so strange.
But no, it's I can't remember what my original point was.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's
This is cheeseburgers.
No, authenticity. I think that's just the key thing. You know, when the band is genuine and sincere, you can always tell when the band isn't. I mean, that's why I think that's why death metal could be quite impenetrable for a lot of people sometimes, because it's hard to relate about. Sorry to be crass here. It's hard to relate to songs about having sex with dead babies.
It's not something that we do very often.
No. Do you know what I mean? It's like so. But you know, I've. But what it is, you got like, because I feel like the thing with death metal is it's got so many commonalities with the horror genre. Yeah. You know, people that are fans of like Fulci and stuff, and those like the Hammer horror and all those B movies. Like it's that same demographic where you're not really supposed to take it too seriously. But I think the interesting thing now is we're at the stage where we're thinking, okay, even though it's not serious, we need to still be holding people responsible to writing subject matter that can be offensive to many people.
100%. I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, that's really important. I think, God, what do I think about this? I mean, it's just shit that some people are so, like, mentally out of touch with reality that they've got to, like, the most entertaining thing to them to write about is, like, hurting another human being, especially one that's weaker than them. It's like, why is it metal to you to hurt a child or a woman? Like, that kind of shows how insecure those people are, that they think that, like, they can't take on anything bigger. Like, why don't you write about like disemboweling a dinosaur? Why don't you write about sucking the cock of an alien? I don't know. I mean, that's far more metal in my opinion. I want to hear about that. You know, please someone just go do that. I will review it for this podcast.
When you mentioned sucking the cock of an alien, just somewhere Geiger is staring down at you from like, some afterlife saying, yes, that's what we're getting at.
More!
But, nah, it's good shit.
It's great. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that doesn't exist. There must be some kind of like strange alien hentai metal out there.
Well, you know about
Shem's doing like cocksucking motions.
It's you know about rule. Is it rule 34? Rule something?
Yeah, rule 34.
Where there's basically some hentai, or I don't know if that's the correct term.
If it exists, there's porn.
Yeah.
The weirdest one I've found is door handles.
Door handles.
Yeah, door handle porn.
Yeah. I'm trying to picture it.
It's literally like pictures of women like licking door handles and worse. I'm not going to describe the rest of it.
That just reminds me of the documentary about the guy
with the cars.
Yeah, and then it was just there's just a horrible shot where obviously he was spunking into the exhaust pipe, right? And there was just there's a solitary pube just dangling from the pipe. I swear to God, every time I think about it, I want to gag. It's just fucking disgusting.
Poor cars. Is that the one? I've not seen it, but someone was telling me about a car fucking documentary, where there were like two car fuckers and they got them to like meet up, and then like one of the guys, he had sex with the other guy's car when he wasn't there.
So he cheated on him with his car.
He like cucked the guy. With his own car.
Oh shit, that is fucking.
That was so bad. And like apparently this guy was like a real sleazebag, but was like with fucking other people's cars. So
oh man,
can you imagine if someone like screwed your car and you come out and there's like a pube and oh my God, it's just so disturbing.
That reminds me, once my partner, and I apologise for doxing over this story, was once asked to write Transformers erotic fan fiction once.
Was it paid well?
And I don't think she did it, but it was, but yeah, it was. They were very specific about wanting to include things about having sex with the exhaust pipe. and stuff.
Do Transformers have exhaust pipes?
I've never seen a Transformers film. I did used to watch. I love the concept of Transformers more than any of the actual
Same
like TV shows. And I was a little bit young for the TV show anyway. I mean, I think I had a couple of them on VHS, and I watched a few. I thought they were all right, but I was obsessed with the toys and the ideas that you can have something and turn it into a giant robot man. I thought that was super cool.
I think the toys were more fun than the cartoon, for sure. Yeah.
But I don't no idea about the lore. I know that they're apparently these fucking million-year-old aliens, and they're not actually robots or some shit. But
it's weird how millions of years ago they had the concept of cars, millions of years before we had the concept of cars, which suggests that alien intervention from Transformers appeared at some point to give humans the idea of the car. It's pretty weird.
Yeah. Although I got to tell the story. I have to tell
Please.
it. I might have told it once before, but the place and the name of the person are going to remain nameless. But I was working somewhere, and someone was. We can cut this if this doesn't translate well. But the name of this guy came in. A customer came in, and he said, "Oh, my son's got autism."
Oh my gosh, Shem!
He said, so this customer came and said, my son's got autism. Have you got any products or toys suitable for a child with autism? And then the other member of staff was just like, yeah, upstairs on the 5th floor. And so, no, I've just come from the 5th floor. They told me to come back down here. And it's just like, you sure it's upstairs? She was like, yeah, there's autism toys. Autism Prime from Transformers, right?
Oh, no.
But,
No.
I was like,
oh, my God. That's terrible.
yeah.
That doesn't sound real. It's funny because I was thinking of the same place.
Yeah.
Whenever someone mentions Transformers, because I have spent time in that area, and there was like a giant Optimus Prime that would always go, what was it, like, Autobots.
Autobots roll out.
That's it. Autobots assemble. And I hate it so much now. Like, whenever I think of it, it like triggers me. It's really, oof. Yeah, I'm not into Transformers. But I like the concept. The concept is interesting. I think they should have been more like sports car-like or UFO-ish. I don't know.
So I like Beast Wars. Do you remember Beast Wars? That was sick.
Beast Wars?
Beast Wars was basically a rip-off of Transformers. It might have been made by the same studio or whatever, but their main character was it was like a pun on I almost said Autism Prime, Optimus Prime. It was Optimus Primal, so it was like a big gorilla.
Oh my God!
It was like a gorilla that turned into something.
It should have been Optimus Primal.
Octopus Primal.
It should have been like an octopus beast.
Yeah,
that would have been badass.
But that was cool. I remember watching Beast Wars.
Beast Wars. That's fascinating. You know, remember that like many weeks ago I made one comment about Digimon and jeans?
Yeah.
We did some research and apparently Digimon do wear jeans as a sign of rebellion, and their different genes actually mean different things. And like if they've got ripped genes, they're like a rebellious Digimon. If they've got like good genes, they're like a cop Digimon. Which is like so crazy to me. But yeah, that's a fun fact for those who appreciate the art of Digimon.
One of my brother knew that. He is the biggest Digimon fan.
Really?
Yeah, he used to run home from school to catch it on TV.
That is so cute.
Yeah, he was 15.
I love. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's still cute. It's still cute. I liked it too.
Yeah, no, I liked it too. I much preferred it to Pokemon.
I will prefer Pokemon, but I still have like 5 Digimon cards, so I'm just gonna hold on to those.
Yeah, I had some Digimon cards. I don't know. They were just. I didn't even know where they came from. Might come from a cereal packet or something.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, fuck knows. I mean, a long time ago now.
They're a lot more confusing than Pokemon.
But I really
cards.
like Pixie-mon. I thought Pixie-mon was so cute.
Oh
Do you
my God,
remember
there's
the
a
little
Pixie.
It was like a little pink bowl, and it had it was super cute, and it was like super powerful as well. It was one of the most powerful Digimon.
I like the ones that unfortunately are more furry-like, which back then I had no concept of furries.
The fucking Garurumon and
yeah,
stuff.
I like the big wolf kind of looking guys. Yeah, but now I'm like, oh man, I can't.
I can't get into that.
No, not at all.
No.
Amenra. So we were talking about Amenra, right?
Yeah, we were.
How did we get here?
Sorry, I was just reminiscing about the time I witnessed
I know what you're going to talk about.
The bronies.
The bronies, jabronis.
Yeah, the jabronis. But yeah, I was in a KFC and they were all talking to each other through their plush. And that was terrifying. But each to their own, I suppose. But no, Amenra, I fucking love this album. I don't want to detract from how much I enjoyed this album. It's good. I love that they're on a major label and seem to have success now. And I think the upgrade in sound production, whether or not that's a direct result of the label or whoever mastered and engineered it, but it just sounds fucking great. And I hope this is the album that hopefully catapults them into a larger audience.
I think so. I think they're going to do really well off this. They tend to play really great shows. They probably have an amazing booking agent. Like, congratulations, Amenra. I think this is a beautiful body of work, and they've already created, like, a whole discography for people to discover now, too.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool.
And I think, I love when there's thought into, like, naming albums beyond just...
The first or
exactly.
Whatever. Yeah, me too. I
like the whole
that.
concept. Like they've done 6 albums called Mass, and that's obviously a singular body of work. And now this is like a new stage, and it's just super cool. I just love shit like that. I just love just that attention to detail.
I'm excited to see what they do next as well. I'm really curious just to see like if they're going to continue with the concept of this album of like the Sting and the Faun.
Yeah.
Or if they're going to do something a bit more like, because they've done something so like connected, now they're going to go new places.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see. Either way, it'll be great, I'm sure.
It's exciting times.
Super exciting. Do you think that's a good place to end it?
I believe so.
All right, let's end it. So feel free to like and subscribe and comment on the video. We will reply, we will read, we will take on all information you choose to give us. So thank you so much for watching and listening. This is Serpent Temple out.
Until next time. As in until about 5 minutes.